here, biblical business coach. I help faith-based entrepreneurs be able to get unstuck, achieve quantum leaps, and apply biblical principles into your life. And today we're going to be going through a Bible study that I'm labeling, Can You Think and Grow Rich Biblically? If you're familiar with the book Think and Grow Rich, it is the best-selling personal growth success book in the world. But we're going to ask the question, can we think and grow rich, but biblically? And I think that's important to be able to understand. We're going to specifically talk about chapter 6 today, imagination. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, like this, share this. Also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube as well, because we'll put this and all of our other replays there too, so you can catch this and all the other Bible studies that we're doing. All right. So let me read this off in Think and Grow Rich. And if you haven't read the book by Napoleon Hill, I'd highly recommend it. Tons of great material in there. People like Damon John from FUBU, people like Bruce Lee, the martial artist, they've all attributed their success to Think and Grow Rich. And it's a very powerful book with many principles. Chapter 6 is talking all about imagination and describes imagination as being the workshop of the mind. Let me read the first paragraph here. The imagination is literally the workshop wherein all are fashioned all plans created by man. The impulse of desire is given shape, form, and action through the aid of the imaginative faculty of the mind. It's been said that man can create anything which he can imagine. That's powerful. And I know all of us, we know that we have an imagination. And the most successful people in the world, they know how to use this in the proper way. But the question is, what does the Bible say about imagination? Is there such a thing? How can we use this in a biblical way? And I want to share with you Genesis 1:26, right off the bat, in the very first chapter of the book. Genesis 1:26 is God's creation story. And this is what God says. Then God said, let us make mankind in our image. There's image, there's imagination, right? In our image, according to our likeness. So right away, it says in Genesis 1:26, did you know that the first commandment, the first thing that God said about people is not necessarily even like worship God. It's not necessarily like believe in me. It's not necessarily like go baptize other people. None of that. The first thing that God said is let us make mankind in our image. So we get a principle here that we're most like our creator when we're creating. And you create first in your mind, in your imagination, before you do in the physical reality. So it's a powerful principle. I mean, God is an image maker. God is a creator. So if you understand that God gave us this gift of imagination, and in fact, if we use our imagination, it's actually one of the best things that we can do to be most like him, right? It's kind of like if you're a parent, you want to see your kids, and it's like the cutest thing when they start to emulate you, when they start to copy you, when they start to speak like you, right? That brings joy to you. So in accordance with God, it brings joy to God when we use our imagination and we start creating stuff. That's what entrepreneurs do. Good morning. Great to see you. So imagination. Now, unfortunately, what happens is many times in our life, we don't really use our imagination. Or when we do, to be honest, we use our imagination in negative ways. For sake of example, who here recently has experienced the emotion of worry or fear? Put a 1 in the chat if you've experienced anxiety, worry, fear, doubt, these types of things. And it's normal. However, all those is imagination turned into the negative direction, right? Yeah, it's normal to face these things. So if we're experiencing a lot of worry, a lot of doubt, a lot of fear, it means that we're using God's gift in the most negative ways. We can imagine ourselves into worry, but at the same time, we can imagine ourselves into faith. We can imagine ourselves into success. We can imagine ourselves into prosperity, into good directions. But we have to understand how this works and how to use it properly. So imagination is definitely a real thing. God gifted mankind with the greatest gift in the world, which is our own ability to think. But it's so unfortunate because while the ability to think is something that is very powerful, for many times, most of us, to be honest, use this, whether intentionally or unintentionally, in the most negative ways. So how do we use this in the right way? And it's okay. And I want you to understand, like, it's not your fault necessarily. Like, these are normal things. Let me go through another piece of scripture here. We're in battles. All right. If you believe that there's a spiritual world, there are spiritual battles. And this is what Genesis 6:5. So in Genesis 1, God's saying, hey, let us make mankind in our image. It was good. Like, he was happy about that. But then all of a sudden, people start going around, and this is what happened. Genesis 6:5. Then the Lord said that the wickedness of mankind was great on the earth, and that every intent of their thoughts, the thoughts of their hearts, was only continually evil. So the reality is this, okay? We've been given a gift called imagination, called our minds. And it is the workshop of the mind. It is the place that plans are created and ideas are created and dreams are created. But left to its own will, the unfortunate part is naturally we have evil thoughts. Naturally, we have negative thoughts. Naturally, we have thoughts that are not going to serve us. In fact, let me just break it down like this. We have three parts in one. As human beings, we have three parts in one. We have a body, we have a mind, we have a spirit. A body, mind, spirit. A body is the fleshly things. It's this piece of meat that we're in. It's our vehicle while we're here. We have a mind. In that mind, you're able to think about. You're able to control your thoughts, a conscious and a subconscious. And then we have a spirit. A spirit is the part that connects you to God. So what happens is this. Our minds typically get influenced by our body. If you've noticed, our bodily desires, whether that's as simple as something like food, I'm not you, but have you ever been to a buffet and you very quickly realize, like, I'm not you, I got glutton all over me. I want to eat everything. I want to experience everything. The body basically desires instant gratification, whether that's actual eating, whether that's pleasure. The body wants to do anything just to feel good. Right? Good morning, good morning. Great to see you, Yeah. So the body's desires, have you noticed that whatever our body desires typically isn't going to lead you to the right direction? It says in Proverbs that there's a way that seems right to man, but it leads to death. And that typically is your body to the desires, right? We know the principles of instant gratification aren't going to lead you to the right places. And many times it's literally just because we are led and influenced by what our body wants. So this is what happens. Our bodies naturally have influence over our minds. Our bodies typically have influence over our imagination. So what happens is that if we don't cut that influence from the body to the mind, then we're going to completely misuse the imagination, the gift that God's given to each and every single one of us, which is a beautiful gift. God's first thing that he did is he used his imagination and he said, man, I want to create this entire universe. I want to create man. I want to create woman. I want to create all these great things. And we were made in his image, right? So we've been given this, but we have to cut that influence from the body, and then we have to be able to retune with the spirit. Now, how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you use the imagination in the proper way so that we can create the good? We can repurpose the things that we've been gifted with. We can partner with God and actually do the things in our businesses and our lives to create the most influence and most impact and everything. Well, this is a verse that you might want to memorize. 2 Corinthians 10:5 gives us the secret. This is Paul talking to the Corinthian church. If you know the Corinthian church was all crazy. Corinthian church was all types of influence on the body. Corinthian church was interesting. If you just research on them, it was all types of gluttony, all types of lust, all types of sex. In fact, if you went to in Corinth back in the day, they literally had a temple there where there was like 1,000 prostitutes, and travelers would go there and they would just have sex all day. Like it was kind of it's like Vegas on crack, It's like, whoa. So here's Paul, and he's basically looking at this church, and he's just like, all right, like let's calm this down right here. How do you use your imagination in the right way versus the wrong way? He says in 2 Corinthians 10:5, We are destroying arguments and all arrogance raised up against the knowledge of God. And here's the key. And we are taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. So as a faith-based entrepreneur, as a believer, as a person of faith, we have the ability now to take captive. That's an active word, right? To take captive every single thought and bring it into obedience to Jesus. What does that mean? That sounds kind of weird right there, right? How do we use this imagination in the proper way? Let's say you're thinking about a goal for your business. Let's think about you're thinking about a goal for your life. And the natural thought is this. The natural thought is, I want to make more money so I can become rich and famous and powerful and I can be glorified. For example, right? That's like a natural tendency. Case in point, if you've ever seen any kid and you've seen them like play around with each other, you can see that naturally our desire is to have power over people. Natural desire is to have influence. Naturally, our desire is to only be great for our own sake. But if we take that thought and we're using this imagination in the right way, we take that thought of power and influence and success, which is not necessarily a bad thing, and we think, oh, what would God want for me to use power for? And if you go back to Genesis 1:26, power is not a bad thing. In fact, we've been created so that we can have dominion. Dominion means responsibility. We've been created as human beings to have dominion not over people, though. We've been created to have dominion over the world. You've been gifted with certain imagination, with certain gifts, with certain talents, with certain purpose, so that you can use your gifts and talents to serve humanity, to help other people. So think about this goal that you have. Let's say you have a business goal. You're like, I want to make $1 million. By itself, that's not a bad thing. However, naturally, it's going to lead you into the wrong direction. I want $1 million so I can look rich and famous and blah, blah, blah. That's not a desire that's going to please God. But if you start to imagine, God, I believe you want me to make $1 million because I can fund for greater ministries. I can fund for greater work. I have an idea that can serve and bless other people, right? I believe that you can use this to establish my platform to ultimately elevate your platform. In fact, I've created a community called Kingdom Builders. And what's the purpose of this community? It's to make sure that as faith-based entrepreneurs, let's learn what God says that we can do to be able to expand our influence and our success. And you're welcome. So that we have the goal of elevating his kingdom. Because the best thank you that we can give to God is to be able to use what he tells us to do and to showcase that these principles applied into our lives can yield success and prosperity. And we're going through this study of, can you think and grow rich biblically? You absolutely can. But as long as you submit that thought to him, you say, I want this for you, not for me, right? I want this for you, not for me. So let's use this imagination in the most powerful ways. Let's use this gift in the right way. And it's so unfortunate because we've been gifted such an amazing thing and all of us can use this. But number one, many of us are just not using imagination in the proper ways. We're not even using it at all. We're using it in the most negative ways. Number two, if we do use it, but it's disconnected with God, we are missing the mark. We are missing the mark. But if we actually use our imagination in the most powerful ways, we dream big dreams, we think big thoughts, we pray big prayers. As faith-based entrepreneurs, shouldn't we have the biggest dreams of them all? Shouldn't we dream bigger than ever there is? Pastor Rick Warren, the pastor that brought me into faith, says, let the size of your God determine the size of your dreams. If you start to realize that we serve a God that could do immeasurably more than we could ever imagine, that he thinks bigger than we think, his thoughts are not our thoughts, his ways are not our ways, then as you think towards your goals and your dreams, we should dare to imagine bigger, because that brings the biggest glory to who he is, because we're using his gift of imagination in the most proper of ways. So with that said, if that blesses you, if this makes sense, I'd love to hear in the comments below what impacted you. share this, like this, subscribe to our YouTube so you can take a look at this and all of our other studies as well too. We are chapter by chapter right now going through Think and Grow Rich. We're asking ourselves the question, can we think and grow rich in a biblical way? And I believe we can, but we have to submit every single thought to Christ Jesus. Okay. Last shout out as well. January 15th, if you are seeking breakthroughs in your life, if you want a deeper connection with God, if you want to start 2023 in the right way, and you've been looking for breakthrough in your business, your life, your finances, your whatever that it is, I'd love to invite you. We are actually, for the first time ever, I wrote a book. I'm actually in the phase of launching this book. It's called The Miraculous Breakthrough Formula. But I'm showcasing a 7-day formula found all throughout the Bible that if you follow it, you're biblically guaranteed to get unstuck and achieve the impossible in life. It's going to be 7 days of fasting, prayer, and Bible study. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be breakthroughs. I've seen miracles already happen with people that have guided this through in just one day. But if you're interested in that and more information, we're starting January 15th. I'm actually guiding people through this for the first time. And take a look at my YouTube channel for information on that. But also go and join our Kingdom Builders Telegram group, free challenge. And if you go to my link tree in the bio or you go in the caption, you'll see the Telegram group for Kingdom Builders. And you can see exactly how to join in this, how to participate. Every day from now until January 15th, I'm giving extra information and guidance and directives on how to do this properly so we can have God show up powerful in our lives and we can produce miraculous breakthroughs in our life as well too. So if that interests you, once again, go to that Telegram group, and I've been grateful to see a lot of you joining that. And if you're interested in knowing how to pick up a copy of the book or knowing how to support that, check out the Kickstarter campaign as well too in the bio. But other than that, we'll see you guys back on. I'll be back on Monday to go through another chapter of this. But talk to you soon. God bless. And I can't wait to